What do you do when your apartment is too quiet, but your mind is too loud? Some people go for a walk, some people call a friend, and some people grab their laptop and go to the cafe. Hello, and welcome back to English Journey Studio. This is day 11 of your 30-day English journey, and today something is different. You have just finished Phase 1. 10 days at the A1 level. Today, we begin Phase 2, the A2 level. What does that mean for you? The sentences are a little longer, the vocabulary is a little richer, and the stories go a little deeper. But Sarah is still here, Brooklyn is still here, and the coffee is still hot. Are you ready? Let's go to the cafe. It is Monday morning. Sarah's eyes open slowly. For a moment, just one moment, she forgets it is Monday. Then she sees her phone. 7:14 a.m. A calendar notification. Client presentation, Thursday, 10 a.m., 3 days. The weekend had been so good. The farmer's market, cooking with Maya, the slow Sunday. But now it was over, and real life was back. She gets up, makes coffee, and sits at her desk. She opens her laptop and looks at her design files. She stares at the screen for 2 full minutes without touching anything. The apartment feels very quiet, too quiet. Sometimes, when Sarah needs to concentrate, the quiet apartment is perfect. But today, the silence feels heavy, like it is pressing down on her. She closes her laptop. She knows exactly what she needs. She is going to work from the cafe today. She gets dressed quickly, jeans, a warm sweater, her favorite gray scarf. She puts her laptop, her notebook, and her headphones into her bag. She pulls on her coat, steps outside, and takes a breath of cold November air. The city is already awake. People are walking fast, coffee cups in their hands, heading somewhere with purpose. Sarah walks toward the Corner Cup, her favorite cafe in Brooklyn. The Corner Cup is warm, and it smells wonderful. Coffee, cinnamon, and something baking in the back. Sarah loves this place. She has been coming here for 2 years. It is quiet enough to work, but not so quiet that it feels lonely. There is a short line. She waits, looking up at the menu on the wall. She always orders the same thing, an oat milk latte. When it is her turn, she steps up to the counter. The barista, a young woman with short red hair, smiles at her. "Hi, what can I get you?" "Hi, could I get a large oat milk latte, please?" The barista's expression changes slightly. "I'm so sorry, we actually ran out of oat milk this morning. We're getting more this afternoon, but right now we only have regular milk and almond milk." Sarah pauses. This has never happened before. "Oh, okay. What would you recommend?" The barista thinks for a second. "Honestly, if you like lattes, you should try our cortado. It's a small coffee, equal parts espresso and steamed milk. It's strong, but really smooth. A lot of our regulars love it." Sarah has never tried a cortado before. "Okay," she says. "I'll have the cortado." "Great choice," the barista says, smiling. Sarah pays and finds a table by the window. A few minutes later, the barista sets down a small, beautiful cup. Sarah takes one sip. It is strong, smooth, almost a little sweet, even without sugar. She smiles. She had been planning to order the same thing she always ordered, and instead, she found something new. Sarah opens her laptop and puts on her headphones. She finds her work playlist, soft instrumental music, no words, and then she begins. Something about the cafe makes it easier to concentrate. At home, she can see the dishes in the sink, the laundry she forgot to fold, the book sitting on the coffee table. Her apartment is full of small distractions, but here, all she can see is her screen and the street outside. Her mind feels clear. She works for almost 2 hours without stopping. She finishes 2 full slide layouts for the presentation. She had been struggling with the color palette for days, and suddenly, sitting in the warm yellow light of the cafe, the answer comes to her. Warm amber, deep navy, clean white. It is exactly right. Around her, the cafe has its own quiet rhythm. A man in the corner reads a thick paperback, his coffee growing cold beside him. 2 women near the door speak in low voices, leaning close together. A young student types furiously on her laptop, surrounded by open textbooks. A small dog sits patiently under its owner's chair, waiting. Sarah takes off her headphones for a moment and just listens. She loves this, the soft background noise of people living their lives. It is not distracting. It is actually the opposite. It reminds her that she is part of something larger than her desk, her deadline, her screen. She puts her headphones back on and returns to her work. The presentation is starting to feel real now. Around 11 o'clock, Sarah takes a break. She stretches, takes off her headphones, and looks out at the street. "Excuse me." She turns. At the table next to hers is an older man, perhaps 65, with white hair and reading glasses pushed up on his head. He is looking at her laptop screen. "I'm sorry to interrupt," he says, "but are those your designs?" Sarah glances at her screen, the full layout, the color palette, the typography all in place. "Yes," she says, "it's a presentation for a client." The man nods slowly. "The balance is very good," he says. "The colors feel warm but professional at the same time. That's not easy to do." Sarah feels a small surprise of pleasure. "Thank you. Are you in design?" He smiles. "I was an architect, retired now, but I still notice these things." His name is Martin. He has been coming to the Corner Cup every morning for 7 years, which makes him, as the barista said, a regular. They talk for about 10 minutes. He asks about her work. She asks about architecture. It is one of those easy, unexpected conversations, the kind that you cannot plan, and that leaves you feeling more awake than before. When Martin stands up to leave, he pauses. "Good luck with the presentation," he says. "I think your client is going to love it." Sarah watches him walk out into the cold. She smiles and opens her laptop again. By noon, Sarah is ready to leave. She has finished 4 complete slide layouts. She has a color palette she loves. She has a clear plan for the rest of the week. She packs up her laptop and notebook, tucks her headphones into her bag, and pulls on her coat. Before she leaves, she stops at the counter. "Could I get a coffee to go?" The barista looks up, smiling. "Another cortado?" Sarah laughs. "Actually, yes, another cortado." She steps out into the cool midday air with the warm cup in her hand. As she walks home, she thinks about the morning. She had left the apartment feeling heavy and stuck. She was walking home feeling light and clear. What had changed? The work was the same. The deadline was the same. The problem was the same. But the place was different, and that was enough. Sometimes changing where you work changes how you think. A new environment gives your mind something fresh to absorb. A stranger's comment can make you see your own work differently. Even a coffee you have never tried before can remind you that the best things sometimes happen when your usual option is not available. She turns onto her street. Tomorrow, she will probably work from home, but this morning, the cafe was exactly right. Today, Sarah had a productive Monday morning at her favorite cafe. She tried something new, a cortado instead of her usual latte. She solved a design problem that had been bothering her for days, and she had a short, unexpected conversation with Martin, a retired architect who noticed something beautiful in her work. Quick vocabulary review. A barista, the person who makes and serves coffee at a cafe. To recommend, to suggest something because you think it is good. A cortado, a small espresso coffee with an equal amount of steamed milk. A regular, a person who visits the same place very often. To concentrate, to focus all your attention on one thing. A distraction, something that takes your attention away from what you are doing. A deadline, the date by which a piece of work must be finished. Inspired, feeling excited and full of creative energy. If you finished today's episode, type Day 11 done in the comments right now. Tomorrow is Day 12. Sarah received some unexpected news. Keep listening, keep learning. See you tomorrow. Have you ever been sitting quietly, working, minding your own business, and then one email changes everything? Not a bad email, not a bill, not a problem, just news. Unexpected, exciting, slightly terrifying news. Hello and welcome back to English Journey Studio. This is day 12 of your 30-day English journey. We are still at the A2 level. The sentences are a little longer, the vocabulary is a little richer, and today the story gets a little more interesting. Yesterday, Sarah went to the Corner Cup Cafe. She worked hard, she tried a new coffee, and she met Martin, a retired architect who loved her designs. She came home feeling ready. And today, on a regular Tuesday morning, her phone buzzed, and everything changed. Let's find out what happened. It is Tuesday. Sarah woke up early, earlier than usual. She was already thinking about the client presentation on Thursday, 2 days away. She made coffee, sat at her desk, and opened her laptop by 7:30. The slides from Monday were looking good. The amber and navy color palette was working. She felt calm and focused, the kind of calm that only comes when you know what you are doing. She worked for almost 2 hours without stopping. She added 3 new slides. She adjusted the font on the title page. She replaced 2 images with better ones. By 9:45, she sat back and stretched. Good morning. She reached for her coffee, cold now, but she drank it anyway. Then her phone buzzed. She glanced at it without much interest, probably a notification from her bank, or a newsletter she had forgotten to unsubscribe from. But the subject line stopped her. She picked up the phone and read it again. Brooklyn Creative Awards, finalist notification. Sarah sat very still. She had entered a design competition, the Brooklyn Creative Awards, 6 months ago. She had worked on her entry for 3 weeks, submitted it in May, and then nothing. No reply, no update. She had completely forgotten about it. She opened the email. The email was short, clear, impossible to misread. Dear Sarah, we are pleased to inform you that your entry, Urban Warmth, a visual identity for small Brooklyn businesses, has been selected as one of 12 finalists in the Brooklyn Creative Awards graphic design category. To complete your submission, please upload your full portfolio to our online portal by Friday, June 26th at midnight. We look forward to seeing more of your work. Congratulations and good luck. Sarah read it a second time, then a third. She was a finalist, Out of hundreds, maybe thousands of entries, she was one of 12. For a moment, she felt a rush of pure happiness. She wanted to call someone. She wanted to stand up and walk around her apartment. She wanted to do both at the same time. And then the second thought came. Friday. The portfolio was due on Friday. Her client presentation was on Thursday. She opened her calendar. Tuesday, working on slides. Wednesday, finishing slides. Thursday, client presentation at 10 a.m. Friday, the portfolio deadline at midnight. There were only 4 days, and 2 of the biggest moments of her professional life were happening almost at the same time. The happiness she had felt a moment ago was still there, but it was sitting right next to something else. Overwhelmed. She put her phone down, looked at her laptop, and did not move for a full 30 seconds. Sarah opened a new document and typed 2 headings. Presentation, Thursday. Portfolio, Friday midnight. She stared at them. The presentation was almost ready. She had 4 good slides. She needed maybe 3 more, plus a cover page, plus final review. 2 days of focused work, she could do that. But the portfolio was different. A competition portfolio is not just a collection of your work. It needs to tell a story. It needs an introduction. It needs strong images. It needs a layout that looks professional and clean. She had most of the pieces, but she had never put together a formal portfolio before. She did not know exactly how long it would take. She closed the document and picked up her phone. She called Maya. Maya answered on the second ring. "Hey, what's up?" "I got some news," Sarah said. "Good news or bad news?" "Good news, but also a lot of work news." She explained everything. The competition, the email, the Friday deadline, the Thursday presentation. Maya was quiet for a moment. Then she said, "Okay, so you have 2 big things due in 4 days. That's stressful. But Sarah, both of these things are good. The presentation is almost ready, and the portfolio, you already have the work. You just have to put it together." "I know," Sarah said, "but what if I can't do both well?" "Make a plan," Maya said simply. "Break it into pieces. You're good at that." After the phone call, Sarah made a cup of fresh coffee. She sat back down at her desk, but this time she opened a new document, a proper one, a plan. She wrote the days across the top: Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday. Then she filled in the boxes. Tuesday afternoon, finish the 3 remaining presentation slides. Tuesday evening, select the best 10 pieces of work for the portfolio. Wednesday morning, final review of the presentation. Wednesday afternoon, start building the portfolio, layout, images, introduction. Thursday morning, client presentation at 10 a.m. Thursday afternoon, whatever the client meeting leaves behind, follow-up emails, notes, revisions if needed. Friday, finish the portfolio. Submit by midnight. She read through the plan. It was tight, but it was possible. Something about seeing the 4 days laid out in order made the pressure feel smaller, less like a wall and more like a staircase, one step at a time. She thought about what Maya had said. You already have the work. You just have to put it together. That was true. She had been making beautiful things for 3 years. The competition did not need her to be perfect. It just needed her to show up fully, honestly, with everything she had already made. She closed the planning document and opened her presentation slides. Time to start. At 6 o'clock in the evening, Sarah stopped working. She had finished all 3 of the remaining presentation slides. She had also selected 11 pieces for the portfolio. She would cut one tomorrow when she could see them all together with fresh eyes. She made dinner. Simple pasta, olive oil, a handful of cherry tomatoes from the farmer's market. While she was eating, she picked up her phone and opened the competition email one more time. She had been so focused on the work that she had not done the most important thing yet. She had not replied. She pressed reply and typed quickly. "Dear Brooklyn Creative Awards team, thank you so much for this wonderful news. I am honored to be selected as a finalist. I will submit my full portfolio by Friday, June 26th. I look forward to it. Best regards, Sarah." She read it once. She pressed send. She put her phone down and finished her pasta. Outside the window, Brooklyn was getting dark. Street lights were coming on. A bicycle passed below, its light cutting through the evening. Sarah thought, 4 days ago, I was sitting in this apartment feeling stuck. Now I have a presentation Thursday and a competition portfolio Friday. She smiled. Still stuck, but in a completely different way. Today, Sarah received unexpected news. She was selected as a finalist in the Brooklyn Creative Awards, a design competition she had entered 6 months ago and almost forgotten about. She felt happy, then overwhelmed. Then she made a plan. Quick vocabulary review. A finalist, one of the last people or entries remaining in a competition. A competition, an event where people try to win by doing something better than others. A portfolio, a collection of your best creative work, used to show your skills. A deadline, the date or time by which something must be done. To submit, to send or deliver something officially. An entry, the piece of work you send to a competition. A panel, a group of people who judge or make decisions together. Overwhelmed, feeling like there is too much to deal with at one time. If you finished today's episode, type Day 12 done in the comments right now. Tomorrow is Day 13. Sarah has 1 day left before the client presentation. Keep listening, keep learning. See you tomorrow. Quick question. When someone says to you, "So, what do you do for work?" What do you say? In your own language, maybe this is easy. You know the words. You know how to explain your job, ask about someone else's, talk about what you like and what you find difficult. But in English, it can feel harder. What is your job title in English? How do you explain what you actually do? Not just the title, but the real work. And how do you keep the conversation going after the first answer? Talking about your job is one of the most important English skills you can have. You need it when you meet someone new. You need it at events, at parties, on trips. You need it in interviews, in emails, in casual conversations at a cafe. Hello, and welcome back to English Journey Studio. This is day 13 of your 30-day English journey. We are at the A2 level, building real vocabulary, real conversations, real confidence. Today, Sarah takes a break from her work and ends up having a conversation about exactly that, work, why she does it, and what it means to love what you do. Let's find out what happened. It is Wednesday, midday. Sarah had been working since 7 in the morning. She had reviewed her client presentation, fixed a small error on one of the slides, and emailed the final file to herself as a backup. She was focused. She was on track. And she was hungry. She stood up, stretched, put on her coat, and stepped outside. The air was cold and sharp, the kind of cold that wakes you up after hours indoors. She took a deep breath and felt her shoulders drop a little. She walked 2 blocks to the corner cup, not to work this time, just to eat something and breathe for 20 minutes. The cafe was quiet in the middle of a Wednesday. A few people were at laptops. A woman read a book near the window. There was the soft sound of the espresso machine and the smell of coffee and warm bread. Sarah ordered a chicken sandwich and a flat white. She found a small table near the back and sat down. She did not open her laptop. She just sat. She looked around. She let her mind rest. A flat white is similar to a latte but smaller and stronger. It has a shot of espresso with a small amount of steamed milk, less milk than a latte, more coffee flavor. Sarah had tried her first flat white at this cafe 2 days earlier, when the barista had recommended it. Now it was already her second time ordering it. That was how new favorites happened. You try something once, you like it, you come back. She took a sip and looked toward the door. Then she heard a familiar voice. "Sarah, is that you?" She looked up. It was Martin, the retired architect she had met on Monday. He was standing near the counter with a takeaway cup in his hand, his coat already on, looking pleasantly surprised. "Martin, hi. I come here every Wednesday," he said. "I did not expect to see you again so soon." "I needed a break," Sarah said. "I've been working since early this morning." Martin smiled. "That's a very good reason to come here." He looked at the chair across from her. "Are you alone? Do you mind if I sit for a few minutes?" "Please," Sarah said. He sat down. He set his cup on the table and unwound his scarf, a dark gray wool scarf that looked like it had been worn for 10 winters and still looked good. They talked for a moment about the weather. Cold this week, possibly rain tomorrow. The trees on the street outside were completely bare now, all the leaves gone. November in Brooklyn always happened fast. Then Martin leaned back slightly and said, "I realized something on Monday. I know you design things, but I don't actually know what you do. What kind of designer are you?" Sarah smiled. This was a question she had answered many times, in many situations, but she still liked being asked, because it meant someone was genuinely curious. "I'm a graphic designer," she said. "Specifically, I work on visual identity for small businesses." Martin nodded slowly. "Tell me more." "A graphic designer," Sarah said, "is someone who creates visual content, images, layouts, designs, to communicate a message or an idea." She thought for a moment about how to explain her work simply and clearly. "Think of any business you see in your neighborhood," she said. "A bakery, a cafe, a bookstore. They all have a name, but they also have a look, a logo, a color, a style of writing on their signs and packaging. When you see that logo, you recognize it immediately, even before you read the name. That look, that whole visual system is called a visual identity. And you create that," Martin said. It was not quite a question. "Yes, I work with small businesses, usually businesses that are just starting out, or businesses that have been open for a few years, but their visual identity feels outdated. They know who they are, they know what they do, but they don't always know how to show that visually, through design. So you translate their identity into something visual," Martin said. Sarah looked at him. "Exactly. That's exactly what it is." She liked that he understood so quickly. Architects, she thought, worked visually too. They understood that how something looked was never separate from what it meant. A visual identity includes all the visual elements that represent a brand. The logo is part of it, but so are the colors, the fonts, the shapes, the way photographs are styled. Everything you see when you look at a company, that is its visual identity. It sounds a little like architecture, Martin said. Every decision in a building is both aesthetic and functional. The shape of a window is beautiful, but it also lets in light, controls airflow, changes how a room feels. It sounds like your work is the same kind of thinking. It is, Sarah said. It really is. Do you work for a company? Martin asked. Or on your own? On my own, Sarah said. I'm freelance. Freelance means you work independently, not for one employer, not at one company. A freelancer takes individual projects from different clients. Each project is separate. One month, you might work with a cafe. The next month, a small clothing brand. The month after that, a community organization. A client, Sarah explained, is the person or business that hires you and pays for your work. I usually have 2 or 3 active clients at any one time. That sounds very independent, Martin said. I understand that feeling. I had my own practice for 20 years before I joined a larger firm. A practice, in architecture, law, or medicine, is a professional business run by one person or a small group. Martin had run his own architecture practice for 2 decades. In a way, he had also been a freelancer, working for himself, choosing his own clients, building something that was entirely his. Is it hard? Martin asked, working alone? Sarah thought about this honestly. Sometimes, she said, there's no team. You manage everything yourself. The creative work, the client communication, the schedule, the invoices, and when things are slow, there's no regular salary waiting. You have to go find the next project. But, Martin said, he could hear that there was a but coming. Sarah smiled. But every project feels like mine. I choose who I work with. I choose the kind of work I do. And when I finish something, when I see a logo I designed on the window of a real shop on a real street, that feeling is like nothing else. Martin nodded slowly. That's why you do it, he said. That's why I do it. They talked for another 10 minutes. Martin told Sarah about his favorite building in Brooklyn, a converted warehouse in Dumbo, near the water. He had walked past it every week for 15 years. He had never designed it. But I always wished I had, he said. Sarah told him about the project she was most proud of. It was a small Jamaican restaurant in Flatbush, she said. The owner's name was Mrs. Campbell. She had been running it for 12 years. What did the original logo look like? Martin asked. Just text, Sarah said. Her restaurant's name, in a basic font. Black letters on a white background. Nothing else. And you redesigned it. We spent 3 weeks on it together, Sarah said. I asked her a lot of questions. What does the restaurant feel like when you walk in? What do you want people to feel when they eat there? What are you most proud of? What did she say? She talked about her mother, Sarah said. Her mother had taught her to cook. She talked about Sunday mornings growing up, the smells, the colors, the sound of her family in the kitchen. That was the feeling she wanted the restaurant to have. So what did the new logo look like? A swallow, Sarah said. A bird in flight, small, clean, moving forward, and warm orange and deep green tones, the colors of the Jamaican flag, but softer, more personal. When I showed Mrs. Campbell the final version, she didn't say anything for a long time. And then, Martin said quietly, she said, "That's my restaurant." Martin was quiet for a moment. "That's the whole job right there," he said. Sarah looked at her watch. It was almost 1:30. She had been away from her desk for almost an hour. "I should get back," she said. "Big week." "I remember those," Martin said. He stood up and extended his hand. She shook it. "Good luck with whatever you're working on." "Thank you," Sarah said. "And thank you for this. It was good to talk." She walked back through the cafe, through the door, and out into the cold November air. She felt good, clear. Sometimes all you need is 20 minutes away from work to remember why you love it. She walked back toward her apartment, her desk, her plan, and her deadlines, ready. Today, Sarah took a lunch break and ended up in a conversation that reminded her why she does what she does. She talked to Martin about her work as a graphic designer. She explained visual identity, freelance work, clients, and she told him the story of a restaurant logo that made an owner cry. Quick vocabulary review. A graphic designer, a person who creates visual content to communicate a message. Visual identity, all the visual elements that represent a brand, the logo, colors, fonts, and overall style. A client, the person or business that hires you and pays for your services. Freelance, working independently, taking individual projects from different clients instead of working for one company. A brand, the identity of a company or product, how it looks, how it feels, how people recognize it. A practice, a professional business run by one person or small group, common in architecture, law, and medicine. Aesthetic, relating to how something looks, its visual beauty or style. Functional, practical, designed to serve a specific purpose. To commission, to formally ask and pay someone to create a piece of work for you. Outdated, no longer modern or current, belonging to an earlier time. What do you do for work? An important question. Now you know how to answer it in English and how to keep the conversation going. If you finished today's episode, type Day 13 done in the comments right now. It helps you track your progress, and I love reading your notes. Tomorrow is Day 14. Sarah doesn't feel well. We'll learn how to talk about health, describe symptoms, and speak with a doctor in English. Keep listening, keep learning. See you tomorrow. Have you ever woken up on the most important day of the week and felt terrible? Not just tired, actually sick. Your throat hurts, your nose is running, your head feels heavy, and somewhere in the back of your mind, you know today is the day you cannot afford to be sick. This happens, and when it does, you need to know how to talk about it in English. How do you describe how you feel to a doctor? How do you explain your symptoms? How do you understand what the doctor tells you? Hello, and welcome back to English Journey Studio. This is day 14 of your 30-day English journey. We are at the A2 level, building real vocabulary for real situations. Today, Sarah wakes up not feeling well on the exact morning she has been preparing for all week. She goes to a clinic, talks to a doctor, and learns some important words about health in English. Let's find out what happened. It is Thursday, 6:30 in the morning. Sarah's alarm went off, and she did not feel right. Her throat hurt, not terribly, but enough to notice. She swallowed and felt a small, sharp pain at the back of her throat. To swallow means to move food or liquid from your mouth down through your throat. Normally, you never think about swallowing. When your throat hurts, you think about it every single time. She sat up slowly. Her head felt heavy, not quite a headache, but a weight sitting just above her eyes. Her nose was already running. She got up, walked to the bathroom, and looked at herself in the mirror. Her eyes were slightly red. She looked the way people look when they haven't slept well, or when they are just beginning to get sick. She found a thermometer in the cabinet under the sink. She put it in her mouth and waited. 99.5 degrees Fahrenheit. That was a low fever. Not high, not dangerous, but not normal either. A fever is when your body temperature is higher than usual. The normal body temperature is around 98.6 degrees Fahrenheit. That is 37 degrees Celsius. Above 100 degrees is usually considered a real fever. At 99.5, Sarah was right at the edge. She stood in the bathroom for a long moment. Today was Thursday. Her client presentation was at 10 in the morning, 3.5 hours from now. She could not cancel. She would not cancel. But she also could not walk into a professional meeting feeling like this without doing something first. She made a decision. She was going to the clinic. There was an urgent care clinic 2 blocks from her apartment. She had walked past it many times but had never been inside. An urgent care clinic is a medical center where you can see a doctor without making an appointment in advance. It is not a hospital emergency room. Urgent care is for problems that are not life-threatening but still need attention soon. A sore throat and a low fever, for example. Sarah put on her coat and walked down to the clinic at 7:15. The November air was cold and sharp. She pulled her scarf tighter and walked quickly. The waiting room was quiet. 2 other people were already there, an older man looking at his phone and a young woman who appeared to have a similar problem to Sarah. A waiting room is the room where patients sit before the doctor is ready to see them. Most clinics and doctors' offices have one. Sarah walked to the front desk. A receptionist, a young man with a calm, professional manner, looked up at her. "Good morning. How can I help you?" "Hi, I'm not feeling well," Sarah said. "I have a sore throat and a low fever. I was hoping to see a doctor before work this morning." A sore throat means your throat feels painful, especially when you swallow. Sore means painful or tender to the touch. "Of course," the receptionist said. "Do you have insurance?" She gave him her insurance card. He typed her information into the computer, handed her a short form to fill out, and said, "The doctor will see you in about 15 minutes." Sarah sat down in the waiting room. She did not take out her phone. She just sat quietly, breathed, and waited. After about 12 minutes, a nurse called her name. Sarah followed the nurse through a door and into a small examination room. An examination room is the room where the doctor sees patients. It usually has a padded bed covered with a strip of paper, a desk with a computer, and various medical instruments on the walls. The nurse took Sarah's temperature again and checked her blood pressure. She wrote everything down on a chart. "The doctor will be right with you," she said, and left. A few minutes later, the doctor entered. Her name was Dr. Rivera. She was in her 40s, with short, dark hair and a direct, warm manner. She shook Sarah's hand. "Good morning. I'm Dr. Rivera. What brings you in today?" "I woke up with a sore throat," Sarah said, "and a low fever, 99.5. My head feels heavy and my nose has been running since last night." "How long have you had these symptoms?" the doctor asked. "The sore throat started yesterday evening," Sarah said. "Everything else started this morning." Symptoms are the physical signs of an illness, the things you feel or notice that tell you something is wrong with your body. A sore throat is a symptom. A fever is a symptom. A runny nose is a symptom. Any cough? A little. Dry, not much. Difficulty breathing, chest pain? No. Nausea or stomach issues? No. Dr. Rivera nodded. Okay, let me take a look. She examined Sarah carefully. She used a small penlight to look inside Sarah's throat. She checked both ears with a small instrument. She placed a stethoscope on Sarah's back and asked her to breathe slowly in and out. To examine means to look at something very carefully in order to understand it or to find out what is wrong. A doctor examines a patient. An engineer examines a bridge. A reader examines an argument. Dr. Rivera sat back and typed a few notes into her computer. Your throat is slightly red, but there are no white spots, she said. That's a good sign. It means this is most likely not strep throat. Strep throat is a bacterial infection of the throat, more serious than a regular sore throat, and it needs to be treated with antibiotics. White spots at the back of the throat are one sign of strep. Sarah didn't have them. Your ears are clear. Your breathing sounds completely normal. Your temperature is low. The doctor looked at Sarah directly. I think you have the beginning of a viral upper respiratory infection. In other words, a common cold. A viral infection is an illness caused by a virus. Viruses are microscopic, too small to see with the naked eye, and they spread easily from person to person. The common cold is caused by a virus, so is the flu. Is there medicine for it? Sarah asked. Not a cure, Dr. Rivera said. Viral infections don't respond to antibiotics, but there are over-the-counter medicines that treat the symptoms. They won't make the virus go away, but they will help you feel better while your body fights it. Over-the-counter means you can buy the medicine at a pharmacy without a prescription. A prescription is a written note from a doctor that allows you to purchase certain medicines. Strong antibiotics need a prescription. Cold medicine usually does not. I have an important work presentation in about 2 hours, Sarah said. Is it okay for me to go? Dr. Rivera considered this for a moment. You're not running a high fever. You're not dangerously sick. You can go. She held up one hand. But after your presentation, you come straight home. Fluids, rest, sleep. No more running around in the cold. Sarah almost smiled. Deal. Sarah left the clinic at 8:15. She stopped at the pharmacy next door and bought the medicine Dr. Rivera had recommended, a combination tablet for sore throat, congestion, and low fever. She also picked up a bottle of water and a small pack of honey lemon throat drops. To recommend means to suggest something as useful or good for a specific situation. The doctor recommended the medicine. A friend might recommend a restaurant. A teacher might recommend a book. She walked home, took the medicine with a full glass of water, and got dressed for the presentation. The amber and navy color palette was clear in her mind. She knew every slide, every word. At 9:45, she left her apartment. She had 2 throat drops in her coat pocket and her presentation saved on her laptop, on a USB drive, and in her email. She took the subway 2 stops south to Carroll Gardens, the neighborhood where the client's office was. The meeting lasted 1 hour. Sarah stood at the front of the room and presented her work. Her voice was slightly rough, she could hear it, but her ideas were clear, and the slides told the story exactly the way she had planned. The client, a small furniture company called Strand and Oak, was quiet for most of the presentation. They asked a few questions. Sarah answered them. Then, at the end, the owner leaned forward in his chair and said, "I think this is exactly what we needed." Sarah took the subway back home to Brooklyn. She let herself into her apartment, put her bag down on the floor by the door, and went directly to the kitchen. She filled the kettle and set it on the stove. Tea, hot tea with honey, and then rest. She carried her mug to the sofa, sat down, pulled a blanket over her legs, and closed her eyes. Outside, Brooklyn was gray and cold. Inside, the apartment was warm and quiet. She had done what she needed to do. Everything else could wait until tomorrow. Today was Thursday. Sarah woke up feeling sick on the morning of her most important presentation of the week. She went to an urgent care clinic, saw Dr. Rivera, and learned she had the beginning of a common cold. She took medicine, went to the presentation anyway, and did excellent work. Then she came home, made tea, and rested. Quick vocabulary review. Symptoms: the physical signs of an illness, the things you feel that tell you something is wrong. A sore throat, pain in the throat, especially when you swallow. A fever, a body temperature higher than normal, a sign that your body is fighting something. A runny nose, when liquid flows from your nose because you are sick. To swallow, to move food or liquid from your mouth down through the throat. An urgent care clinic, a medical center where you can see a doctor without an appointment for non-emergency issues. A waiting room, the room where patients sit before the doctor is ready for them. To examine, to look at something very carefully to understand it or find out what is wrong. A diagnosis, the identification of an illness after a doctor has examined a patient. A prescription, a written note from a doctor allowing you to purchase certain medicines. Over-the-counter, describes medicines you can buy at a pharmacy without a prescription. To recommend, to suggest something as useful or good for a particular situation. Feeling sick and speaking English at the same time is hard, but now you have the words you need. If you finished today's episode, type Day 14 done in the comments right now. It helps you track your progress, and I love reading your notes. Tomorrow is Day 15. Sarah goes shopping for clothes. We'll learn how to ask for your size, describe what you're looking for, and navigate a clothing store in English. Keep listening, keep learning. See you tomorrow. You're standing in a clothing store. You see a sweater on the rack. The color is perfect. The style is exactly what you wanted. You take it to the fitting room and it doesn't fit. The shoulders are too tight, so you walk out and look for someone who works there. And then you realize you don't know how to ask for what you need. Do you just hold up the sweater and point? Or do you know the exact sentence, simple, clear, natural, that every English speaker uses in that moment? Maybe you've been in a store and stayed silent because you weren't sure what to say. Maybe you bought the wrong size because you didn't want to ask. By the end of today's episode, you will know exactly what to say in a clothing store, from the moment you walk in to the moment you pay and walk out. This is Day 15 of your 30-day English journey. 14 days down, 15 to go. Right now, you are moving from A1 toward B1, step by step, episode by episode. Today, Sarah finishes something very important on a Friday morning and then takes the afternoon to treat herself to a small reward. She walks into a clothing store on Atlantic Avenue, and we're going to follow her in. Let's see what happens. It is Friday. Sarah woke up at 7:30. Her throat still felt a little rough. Not as bad as yesterday, but still there. She made tea instead of coffee and sat at her desk with a blanket around her shoulders. Today was the last day. The portfolio deadline was at midnight, and she still had a few things to finish. She opened her laptop. The portfolio document was already there, waiting for her. 10 pieces of work laid out in order. An introduction she had written and rewritten until it sounded like her. Short captions for each piece. A clean, simple cover page with her name and the title, Urban Warmth, a visual identity for small Brooklyn businesses. She spent 2 hours going through it one final time. She checked every image. She read every sentence. She adjusted one caption that felt too formal, changed 3 words, and it was better. At 11:45 in the morning, she opened the Brooklyn Creative Awards submission portal. She uploaded the file. She filled in the required fields: name, email, entry title. She checked the box that said, "I confirm this is my original work." She pressed submit. A green confirmation screen appeared. Your portfolio has been received. Thank you for your submission, Sarah Chen. She read it twice. Then she closed her laptop. She sat very still for a moment. And then she smiled, quietly, to herself, in her apartment on a Friday morning in November. It was done. Sarah made herself another cup of tea, ate a bowl of soup, and looked out the window. It was cold outside, but the sky was clear, a bright, clean November blue, the kind of day that looked good from the inside and felt good the moment you stepped into it. She had been indoors for 4 days. She had worked through a presentation, a cold, and a competition deadline. She had barely left her apartment except to go to a cafe and a clinic. She decided to go outside. Not to work, not to run an errand, just to walk. And maybe, if she saw something she liked, to buy herself a small reward. She had been thinking for a few weeks about getting a new sweater, something warm and simple. She pulled on her coat and walked down to Atlantic Avenue, where there were several clothing shops between the pharmacy and the bookstore. She stopped in front of a store called Fielder's. It was a small, independent shop, not a chain, not a department store, just a narrow room with wooden floors, good lighting, and a careful selection of clothes displayed on simple racks. An independent store is a shop owned and run by one person or a small group, not part of a large company or chain. Sarah preferred independent stores. They were quieter, more personal, and the people who worked there usually knew the products well. She pushed open the door and went inside. The store was warm and quiet inside. Soft music played in the background, something instrumental, low and unhurried. The clothes were arranged neatly on racks and folded on wooden shelves. Sarah began browsing. To browse means to look around in a relaxed way, without looking for one specific thing. You browse when you're not sure exactly what you want. You're just looking, open to finding something. She moved slowly through the store. She ran her fingers along a rack of sweaters, checking the fabric, the weight of each one. Fabric is the material that clothing is made from. Cotton, wool, linen, silk, these are all types of fabric. Sarah preferred natural fabrics. She liked the way wool felt heavy and warm. She didn't like synthetic materials that felt slippery or stiff. After a few minutes, a young woman who worked at the store approached her. She had short hair and a friendly, easy manner. "Hi there, can I help you find anything?" "Hi," Sarah said. "I'm looking for a sweater. Something warm, simple, maybe in a neutral color. Earth tones if you have them." Earth tones are colors that come from nature. Brown, beige, rust, olive green, warm gray. They are often described as neutral because they work well with many other colors. We just got a few new arrivals, the employee said. She walked toward a section near the back wall. What size are you? Medium, usually. Sometimes small if it's a looser fit. The employee pulled out 2 sweaters. One was a deep rust color, like dried autumn leaves. The other was a warm cream, almost off-white. These are both 100% merino wool, she said. Very soft. The rust one runs a little small. I'd go with medium for you. The cream one fits true to size. Can I try them on? Sarah asked. Of course. The fitting room is just in the back. The fitting room was a small curtained space at the back of the store. A full-length mirror on one wall. A padded bench to set things down on. A fitting room, also called a changing room or dressing room, is the small private space in a clothing store where you try on clothes before buying them. To try on means to put on a piece of clothing in the store to see if it fits and looks good on you. You always try on before you buy. Sarah tried the rust sweater first. She pulled it over her head and looked in the mirror. The color was beautiful, warm, rich, the kind of color that made her complexion look alive. But the shoulders were tight. She lifted her arms and felt the fabric pull. Tight means too small. The clothing is pressing against the body. The opposite is loose. The clothing is too big and hangs away from the body. A good fit is somewhere in between, comfortable, not pulling, not baggy. She opened the curtain and found the employee. Do you have this in a larger size? This is one of the most useful phrases in any clothing store. Do you have this in a larger size? Or, do you have this in a smaller size? Or, do you have this in a different color? Simple, direct, always understood. Let me check, the employee said. She came back a moment later. I'm sorry, we only have the one medium left in the rust, but we have a large if you'd like to try it. Sarah tried the large. It was better across the shoulders, but too loose at the waist, and the sleeves were slightly too long. Not right. She put it aside and tried the cream sweater in medium. She pulled it on, smoothed it down, and looked in the mirror. It fit perfectly. The fabric was soft against her skin. The color was quiet and clean, easy to wear with almost anything. She turned slightly to check the back. She liked it. Sarah came out of the fitting room holding both sweaters. She handed the rust one back to the employee. The large is too big for me, and you're out of medium, but this one, she held up the cream, fits perfectly. Great choice, the employee said. That one is very versatile. Versatile means useful in many different situations. A versatile piece of clothing works well with many different outfits. A plain cream sweater, for example, can be worn with jeans, with dress pants, over a collared shirt, many combinations. Versatile is a compliment. Sarah brought the sweater to the counter. That'll be $62, the employee said. Do you take card? Yes, chip or contactless, either works. Sarah tapped her card against the rear. The machine beeped once. The employee folded the sweater neatly, wrapped it in tissue paper, and placed it in a small paper bag. Would you like your receipt in the bag? Yes, please. A receipt is the printed or digital record of what you bought and how much you paid. It is useful if you need to return or exchange something later. To exchange means to bring something back to the store and get a different item, a different size, a different color instead. Sarah thanked the employee and stepped back out onto Atlantic Avenue. She stood on the sidewalk for a moment, paper bag in one hand, the cold November air on her face. The portfolio was submitted. The presentation was done. She had been sick and kept going, And now she had a new cream sweater in a paper bag and nowhere to be for the rest of the afternoon. She walked home slowly, taking the long way. For the first time in 4 days, nowhere at all to be. Today was Friday. Sarah finished her competition portfolio and submitted it before noon, 12 hours before the midnight deadline. Then she went outside for the first time in 4 days, walked to a clothing store on Atlantic Avenue, and bought herself a new sweater, a small reward for a very full week. Let's quickly review today's vocabulary. To browse. To look around a store in a relaxed way without looking for one specific thing. Fabric. The material that clothing is made from. Cotton, wool, linen, and so on. A fitting room. The small private room in a store where you try on clothes. To try on. To put on clothing in a store to see if it fits and looks good. To fit. To be the right size and shape for your body. Tight. Too small, pulling against the body. Loose. Too big, hanging away from the body. Earth tones. Natural. Neutral colors like brown, beige, rust, and olive green. Versatile. Useful in many situations. Works well with many different things. A receipt. The record of what you bought and how much you paid. To exchange. To return something and get a different item instead. And the sentence of the day, do you have this in a larger size? One sentence. One of the most useful things you can say in any clothing store anywhere in the world. If you finished today's episode, type Day 15 done in the comments right now. It helps you track your progress, and I love reading your notes. Tomorrow is Day 16. Sarah talks about her hobbies, what she likes to do in her free time. We'll learn how to describe your interests in English and how to ask other people about theirs. Keep listening, keep learning. See you tomorrow. Someone asks you, "So, what do you like to do?" You understand the question, you know the answer, but the words, the English words, don't come quickly enough. And so you smile, nod a little, and say something like, "I don't know, many things." That moment, that gap between what you know and what you can say, that is exactly what we're working on today. Talking about your hobbies, what you enjoy, what you do in your free time, what you love, is one of the most natural parts of any conversation in English. It comes up at work, on dates, with new friends, and it sounds so simple, but only if you have the words. By the end of today's episode, you will be able to talk about your hobbies confidently in English. You'll know how to describe what you enjoy, how to ask someone else about their interests, and how to keep a conversation going naturally. This is Day 16 of your 30-day English journey. 16 days in, more than halfway. You are not a beginner anymore. You are someone who shows up every day, and that matters. Today is Saturday. Sarah has the whole day with no work, no deadlines, no plans, until a message changes that. Let's see what happens. It is Saturday. Sarah woke up without an alarm for the first time in 5 days. She lay in bed for a while, listening to the city outside, traffic in the distance, someone's music drifting up from the street below, the occasional bark of a dog. She got up slowly, made coffee, put on a record, something slow and quiet that she'd been meaning to listen to for weeks. Then she sat down at the small wooden table by the window and opened her sketchbook. To sketch means to draw quickly and loosely, not a finished drawing, not something meant to be perfect or shown to anyone, just pencil lines on paper, shapes, observations, a way of paying attention to the world. Sarah had kept a sketchbook since she was 12 years old. She had a shelf of them in her closet. Small ones, large ones, ones with graph paper, ones with smooth blank pages. Each one full of windows and fire escapes and faces and hands and things she'd noticed but might have forgotten if she hadn't drawn them. This was free time. Real free time. Not the kind where you're resting but still thinking about work. Free time means time that belongs completely to you. No task at the end of it. No result required. She was halfway through drawing the building across the street when her phone buzzed on the table. A message from Maya. "Hey, are you free today? There's a flea market in Williamsburg I want to check out. Come with me?" Sarah looked at her sketchbook, then at her phone. She typed back, "Give me 20 minutes. A flea market is an outdoor or indoor market where people sell secondhand items, old clothes, furniture, books, records, artwork, vintage objects. Each stall is different. You never know exactly what you'll find. That's the point." Sarah took the subway 2 stops to Williamsburg and found Maya waiting near the entrance, coat buttoned up, a canvas tote bag over her shoulder, already looking pleased about something. Maya was like that. She arrived at things already excited. "You're going to love this," Maya said. "I found it last weekend. It's huge, and there's a coffee stand in the middle." "You had me at coffee," Sarah said. They went in. The market was spread across an open lot, maybe 40 or 50 stalls arranged in rough rows. Old wooden furniture, stacks of books, crates of vinyl records, racks of vintage clothing, boxes of ceramic mugs, glass bottles, old photographs. The kind of place where you could spend 2 hours and feel like you'd only seen half of it. To browse means to look around slowly and casually, without looking for one specific thing. You're open to finding something. You're not in a hurry. Browsing is different from shopping. Shopping has a goal. Browsing is just looking. They split up almost immediately. Maya heading straight for the record crates. Sarah drifting toward a table covered in sketchbooks and art supplies. Sarah spent a long time at the art supply stall. There was a set of old sketchbooks, used ones, half-filled, abandoned by someone. She didn't buy those, but she found a new one, thick cream paper, a worn cloth cover in dark green, the kind of sketchbook that made you want to fill it. She bought it. $6. Maya, meanwhile, had found something in the record crates. She was holding up a vinyl album with a faded orange cover, showing it to Sarah with the expression of someone who had just found buried treasure. "Do you know who this is?" Maya asked. Sarah looked at the cover. "No idea." "Exactly. That's the whole point." Maya collected vinyl records. Not just music she already knew. She looked specifically for things she'd never heard of. Artists from the 1960s and 70s who had been almost forgotten. She had over 200 records at home, organized by color on 2 long shelves. To collect means to gather and keep a particular type of object over time, because you love it, because it means something to you. A collection is deeply personal. It tells you something about who someone is, what they notice, what they value, what makes them feel something. "How do you even find them?" Sarah asked. "Flea markets, estate sales. Sometimes I find one in a box of random stuff someone is selling for $1. Maya turned the record over to look at the back. "Last month, I found an album that now sells for $80 online. I paid 50 cents. "That's incredible," Sarah said. "It's a hobby," Maya said, smiling. "It's a very specific, slightly obsessive hobby, but I love it." They found the coffee stand in the middle of the market, a small cart with a handwritten menu and 2 stools nearby. They each got a coffee and sat down, watching people move slowly through the stalls around them. "So, your sketchbook," Maya said. "Is that your hobby? Drawing?" Sarah thought about it. "Sketching, yeah. But it's hard to call it a hobby because it doesn't feel separate from how I think. Like, I sketch to understand things, to really look at something." "That counts," Maya said. "What else?" "Running," Sarah said. "Early mornings. And reading, mostly fiction. And sometimes I just walk around the city with no destination, not going anywhere specific, just wandering." To wander means to walk without a specific destination, moving through a place slowly with no particular goal, just noticing things. It's different from going for a walk with a route in mind. When you wander, the direction doesn't matter. The experience is the point. "I love that," Maya said. "I do the same thing with music sometimes. I put on something I've never heard and just let it take me somewhere." "Do you have other hobbies besides the records?" Sarah asked. Maya considered. "Cooking, a little. I like to try one new recipe a week, something I've never made before. And I've been learning to sew. Very badly. I made a tote bag last month that has one strap longer than the other." She held up the canvas bag on her shoulder. Now that Sarah looked at it more carefully, yes, one strap was definitely longer. "I think it gives it character," Sarah said. "That's very kind." A hobby is something you do regularly in your free time, not for money, not because you have to, but simply because you enjoy it. The best hobbies are the ones that make you forget about time, the ones where an hour passes and it feels like 10 minutes. "I think the thing I like most about hobbies," Maya said, "is that they're just yours. No one is grading you. No one expects anything. You can be bad at it, and it doesn't matter." Sarah thought about her shelf of sketchbooks at home. 12 years of drawings, most of them bad, some of them okay, a few of them, just a few, that she actually liked. "Yeah," she said, "that's exactly it." They sat there for a while, coffees in hand, watching people browse in the pale November light. Maya had found her mystery album. Sarah had her new dark green sketchbook. The city moved slowly around them, unhurried, the way it sometimes did on Saturday mornings. It was a good day. Today was Saturday. Sarah spent the morning sketching at home, then took the subway to Williamsburg to meet Maya at a flea market. Maya found a vinyl record she'd never heard of, exactly what she was looking for. Sarah found a new sketchbook with cream pages and a dark green cover. And over coffee in the middle of the market, they talked about what they loved to do and why it mattered. Let's quickly review today's vocabulary. Free time, time that belongs completely to you. No work, no task, no result required. To sketch, to draw quickly and loosely, a personal, informal way of paying attention to the world. A flea market, an outdoor or indoor market selling second-hand and vintage items. To browse, to look around slowly and casually without looking for one specific thing. Vintage, old, from a previous era, often used to describe clothes, furniture, or music. To collect, to find and keep a particular type of object over time because you love it. A hobby, something you do regularly in your free time, not for money, just for enjoyment. To wander, to walk without a specific destination, just noticing things as you go. To prefer, to like one thing more than another. To recharge, to restore your energy by doing something you enjoy. And today's key sentence, What do you like to do in your free time? Simple, warm. One of the best questions you can ask someone because the answer always tells you something real. If you finished today's episode, type Day 16 done in the comments right now. Every comment helps others find this series. Tomorrow is Day 17. Sarah wakes up to a very different Brooklyn. Cold, gray, and a little bit magical. We'll learn how to talk about weather and seasons in English, because there's always something to say about the weather. Keep listening, keep learning. See you tomorrow. What is the first thing people say when they don't know what to say? The weather. Cold today, isn't it? Can you believe this rain? I heard it's going to warm up this weekend. Talking about the weather is the most universal small talk in the English language. It happens everywhere, in elevators, in line at the coffee shop, with neighbors you don't know well, with colleagues at the start of a meeting. It seems like nothing, but if you can't do it naturally, you miss a moment every single day. Today, we are going to fix that. By the end of this episode, you will know how to describe the weather, talk about the seasons, share your opinion about the time of year, and keep a conversation going from there. This is Day 17 of your 30-day English journey. You have now completed more than half. Think about that for a moment. 17 days of showing up. 17 days of listening, learning, and staying with it. Today is Sunday. Sarah goes for an early morning run and comes back to a conversation that starts with the weather and turns into something more. Let's go. It is Sunday. Sarah's alarm went off at 6:45. She reached over, turned it off, and lay still for a moment in the dark. She ran every Sunday morning, not because she had to, no race, no training plan, just because it was the best part of the week. The city at 6:45 on a Sunday was a different place entirely. Quieter, slower, like it was still deciding whether to wake up. She got up, put on her running clothes, and looked out the window before going downstairs. The sky was overcast. Overcast means the sky is completely covered with clouds, gray and heavy, with no blue and no sun showing through. Not a storm, not dramatic, just a low, flat ceiling of gray, the kind of sky that makes the whole city look softer, like someone turned the contrast down. It was also chilly. Chilly means cold, but not severely cold. Not dangerous, not painful, just cool enough that you feel it on your face and your hands, the kind of cold that wakes you up. Sarah pulled on an extra layer and went downstairs. Outside, the air hit her immediately, cold and clean and faintly damp, the smell of November, which was something you couldn't describe to someone who had never experienced it. You just had to be there. She started moving, down her street, left onto Atlantic Avenue, then into the park at the end of the block. Her breath made small clouds in front of her. Her sneakers were quiet on the wet pavement. The park was mostly empty. A man walking his dog at the far end, a few pigeons gathered near an empty bench. That was all. The trees had lost most of their leaves by now. A few brown and yellow ones still clung to the branches, the stubborn ones, the last ones to let go. The rest were on the ground, wet and dark, pressed flat against the path. This was autumn almost over. Autumn, also called fall in American English, is the season between summer and winter. It's the time when temperatures drop, days get shorter, and the leaves on trees change color, yellow, orange, red, brown, before falling to the ground. In New York, autumn usually runs from late September through November. Sarah loved this season. She had loved it since she was a child. The particular quality of the light, lower and more golden than summer. The way the cold made everything feel sharper and more real. The excuse to wear her favorite sweaters. She ran for 40 minutes. By the time she turned back toward home, a light drizzle had started. To drizzle means to rain very lightly, not heavy drops, not a downpour, just a fine mist of water that you barely feel, but that slowly makes everything wet. Sarah didn't mind. She was almost home anyway. She was stamping her feet on the mat outside the building door, trying to shake some of the wet off her shoes, when she heard footsteps on the stairs inside. Priya appeared through the glass door, bundled up in a thick coat, a scarf wound twice around her neck, and the expression of someone heading into battle. Priya lived on the 3rd floor. They had been in the same building for 2 years now. They weren't close friends, more like good neighbors. The kind of people who would hold the elevator, bring in each other's packages, and occasionally stop to talk in the hallway. "You just went running," Priya said, looking at Sarah like she had said something unbelievable. "In this?" "It's not that bad," Sarah said. "It's drizzling and it's 42 degrees. 42 is fine. 42 is crisp." Crisp describes cold air that feels fresh and clean and clear, the kind of cold that feels energizing rather than unpleasant. When you describe weather as crisp, you usually mean it in a positive way. Crisp autumn air, a crisp November morning. Priya did not look convinced. "I'm going to get coffee," she said, "because the only way I survive this kind of weather is with a very large coffee in my hand." "What kind of weather do you like?" Sarah asked. Priya answered without hesitating. "Hot, sunny, August. The kind of day where you complain it's too hot, but secretly you love it." She pulled her scarf up higher. "I should not be living in New York. I should be living somewhere with a proper summer that lasts 9 months." Sarah laughed. "I don't know. I think I'd miss this. The cold, the gray. There's something I like about it." "You're strange," Priya said, but kindly. "What do you like about it, genuinely?" Sarah thought for a moment. She'd never really had to explain it before. "I think," Sarah started slowly, "I think I like the way it makes you want to go inside. Does that make sense? Like the cold outside makes inside feel better. Warmer. More, I don't know, cozy." Cozy means warm and comfortable in a way that makes you feel safe and relaxed. A cozy room, a cozy cafe, a cozy evening at home with a book and a blanket. Cozy is a feeling as much as a temperature. "Okay," Priya said. "I can see that. I just prefer achieving the cozy feeling without suffering first." "Fair," Sarah said. Priya pushed open the building door. Cold air came in. She visibly braced against it. "Did you check the forecast for this week?" she asked before she left. A weather forecast is a prediction of what the weather will be like over the coming days. Temperature, rain, sun, wind. Most people check the forecast on their phone. In English, you say, "What's the forecast?" Or, "I checked the forecast." Or, "According to the forecast, it's going to rain." "No," Sarah said. "I prefer not to know. I like the surprise." Priya shook her head. "You are genuinely strange." She said it with warmth. "See you later." Sarah went upstairs. She peeled off her wet jacket, left her shoes by the door, and put the kettle on. While it boiled, she stood at the window with her hands wrapped around a mug, looking out at the gray street below. It was still drizzling. The pavement was dark and shiny. A few people were out, walking quickly, collars up, umbrellas tilted against the wind. The bare trees along the sidewalk moved slowly. She thought about what she'd said to Priya, about the cold making inside feel warmer. It was true. The whole apartment felt different on mornings like this. The light through the window was soft and gray, and the tea was hot, and the blanket on the couch looked exactly like what she needed next. Some people waited for summer. Sarah had always been a November person. She couldn't explain it any better than that. Today was Sunday. Sarah went for an early morning run through a cold, overcast, drizzling Brooklyn and loved every minute of it. Back at the building, she ran into her neighbor Priya, who very much did not love it. They talked about weather, seasons, and what it means to actually like November. And Sarah went upstairs to her apartment, made tea, and stood by the window watching the rain. Let's review today's vocabulary. Overcast, when the sky is completely covered with gray clouds and no sun is showing. Chilly, pleasantly cold, cool enough to feel on your face and hands, but not extreme. Autumn, fall, the season between summer and winter. Leaves change color and fall from the trees. To drizzle, to rain very lightly, a fine mist of water rather than heavy drops. Crisp, fresh and cool in a pleasant, energizing way. Cozy, warm, and comfortable in a way that makes you feel safe and relaxed. A forecast, a prediction of what the weather will be like over the coming days. A season, one of the 4 parts of the year: spring, summer, autumn, and winter. To layer up, to put on multiple layers of clothing to stay warm in cold weather. A downpour, a sudden, very heavy rain, the opposite of a drizzle. And today's sentence, for the next time someone says, "Cold today, isn't it?" you can say, "I actually love this kind of weather. There's something cozy about it. Simple, warm, and it keeps the conversation going." If you finished today's episode, type Day 17 done in the comments. Tell us, are you a summer person or an autumn person? I'd love to know. Tomorrow is Day 18. Sarah is going somewhere she's never been before, alone. Her first solo trip. We'll learn all the English you need at the airport, checking in, going through security, finding your gate, and staying calm when something doesn't go as planned. Keep listening, keep learning. See you tomorrow. Imagine this. You are standing in a large, busy building. There are signs everywhere. Arrows pointing left, arrows pointing right. Screens on the walls and ceiling with names and numbers that change every few seconds. People pulling rolling bags in every direction. A voice comes over the speaker and makes an announcement. You hear it, but you're not sure if it's meant for you. You are at the airport, alone, and you're about to get on a plane. For many English learners, airports are one of the most stressful places to use English. Not because the words are difficult, but because when you're nervous and in a hurry, even simple words can feel impossible to find. Today, we are going to change that. By the end of this episode, you will know how to check in at the airport, go through security, find your gate, and stay calm when something doesn't go exactly as planned, all in English. This is Day 18 of your 30-day English journey. Day 18. You are now in the final stretch of Phase 2. 18 days of showing up. 18 days of listening. That is something worth noticing. Today, Sarah takes her first solo trip, a long weekend in Boston. She has been to the airport before, but always with someone else, always following someone who already knew the way. This time, it is just her bag, her plan, her first time doing this alone. Let's go. It was Monday. Sarah's alarm went off at 4:30 in the morning. She had packed the night before. One small rolling bag, one backpack that she would carry onto the plane. She stood in the doorway of her apartment for a moment and looked back in. The kettle, the blanket on the couch, the window she had been standing at just yesterday, watching the rain. She had booked this trip 3 weeks ago, the day after she submitted her portfolio for the Brooklyn Creative Awards. She had needed something to look forward to. 4 days in Boston. Just her, a sketchbook, and no deadlines. No client emails, no calendar reminders. She turned off the light and closed the door. The taxi arrived at 4:47. The driver was a quiet man with a gray beard and a travel mug on the dashboard. He loaded her rolling bag into the trunk without being asked. "JFK?" he said. "Yes, please," Sarah said. "Terminal 4. Early flight?" 7:15. He nodded. "You'll be fine. Traffic's nothing at this hour." Sarah looked out the window as they crossed into the Brooklyn-Queens Expressway. The city was nearly still. No one on the streets. The street lights made long orange lines on the wet pavement. She liked seeing it like this, before it woke up, before the noise. "First time flying alone?" the driver asked. He said it the way people say things they already know the answer to. Sarah smiled. "That obvious?" "You keep checking your pockets," he said. She laughed and stopped checking her pockets. "It's easier than you think," he said. "Just follow the signs. The airport tells you everything you need to know." She looked out the window again. In the distance, the lights of JFK appeared, low and wide and very bright against the dark November sky. The airport was already busy by the time she arrived. Sarah wheeled her bag through the main doors and stopped for just a moment. The hall was enormous. High ceilings, bright lights, the hum of hundreds of people moving at once. She looked up at the signs. Departures, the section of an airport where flights leave from. If you are catching a flight, you go to departures. Sarah followed the arrows. She found her airline's check-in area and joined a short line. To check in means to officially arrive at the airport, confirm that you are on the flight, and if you have a bag to leave with the airline, hand it over. You can check in online before you arrive, which Sarah had already done, or you can check in at the counter when you get there. When it was her turn, she stepped up. The agent was a woman in her 40s with a neat uniform and the calm, efficient manner of someone who had done this 10,000 times. "Good morning. Destination?" "Boston," Sarah said. She put her passport on the counter. The agent scanned it. "Any bags to check today?" "Just this one." Sarah lifted her rolling bag onto the belt. "And that's your carry-on?" The agent nodded at Sarah's backpack. A carry-on is a bag small enough to bring onto the plane with you. You keep it in the cabin, above your seat or under the seat in front of you. Most airlines allow one carry-on bag plus one smaller personal item like a purse or a laptop bag. "Yes," Sarah said, "just the backpack." The agent printed a sticker tag, attached it to the rolling bag, and watched it move onto the belt behind her. Then she slid a small card across the counter. "Your boarding pass." A boarding pass is the document, paper or digital, that allows you to get on the plane. It shows your name, your flight number, your seat number, and your gate. It is the one thing you absolutely cannot lose. Sarah looked at hers. Seat 14A, gate B12, boarding 6:50. "Have a great trip," the agent said. Thank you, Sarah said. She meant it more than the agent probably realized. Security was ahead. Security, sometimes called the security checkpoint, is the area where officers check your bags and your ID before you can enter the gate area. You put your shoes, your jacket, your belt, and your bags into flat plastic trays. Everything goes through a scanning machine. You walk through an arch. If it doesn't beep, you're through. If it does, you wait, and someone checks. Sarah had done this part before. She knew the routine. She took off her shoes without being asked, took off her jacket, put her phone and her keys into a pocket of her backpack, placed everything into the gray tray and pushed it forward. The line moved slowly. In front of her, a family, 2 parents, 3 children, 1 stroller, was trying to sort everything into trays. The youngest child was holding a stuffed bear and refusing to let it go. The father was negotiating patiently. The mother was trying not to laugh. Sarah waited. She had time. She did not mind. When her turn came, she walked through the arch quietly. Nothing beeped. On the other side, she collected her things, laced up her shoes, and stood up. She looked at the terminal ahead of her, long and bright, stretching in both directions, lined with gates as far as she could see. She felt something settle in her chest, a small, quiet kind of calm. To navigate means to find your way through an unfamiliar or complicated place, reading signs, following numbers, figuring out where you are supposed to go. Sarah had always liked navigating. It felt like a puzzle with a solution you could actually find. Gate B12. She checked the board. She started walking. She found gate B12 at 6:08, 42 minutes before boarding. She found a window seat near the gate, set her backpack down, and took out her sketchbook. Then the screen above the gate changed. Boston, Florida, 417, delayed, new departure. Delayed. When a flight does not leave at its scheduled time, it is delayed. It is late. In this case, it was almost 2 hours late. Sarah looked at the screen for a moment. Then she opened her sketchbook and picked up her pencil. Okay, she thought. 80 more minutes. The man sitting 1 seat over had noticed the screen at the same time. He made a small sound, somewhere between a sigh and a quiet laugh. First delay of the morning, he said. He was around 60, wearing a navy jacket with a small airline pin on the lapel, reading glasses pushed up on his forehead. He had the relaxed manner of someone who had been delayed many, many times. Does this happen often? Sarah asked. November weather in Boston, yes. He folded his newspaper onto his lap. You traveling for work? No, Sarah said, just for me. He nodded, like that was exactly the right answer. Best reason to go anywhere, he said. He held out his hand. Frank. Sarah. First time in Boston? Yes. You'll like it, he said simply. He unfolded his newspaper again. Not to be rude, just to be comfortable. Sarah appreciated that. She turned back to her sketchbook and started drawing the gate, the rows of seats, the window, the gray November sky outside, and the plane sitting still on the tarmac, waiting. At 8:03, a voice came over the speaker. Ladies and gentlemen, we are now ready to begin boarding Flight 417 to Boston. We will start with passengers who need extra time, followed by Group 1. To board means to get onto the plane. When the gate agent calls your group, you line up, show your boarding pass, and walk down the jetway, the enclosed bridge that connects the gate to the plane. Sarah was in Group 2. She waited. When her group was called, she zipped up her sketchbook, put on her backpack, and joined the line. She showed her boarding pass. She walked down the jetway. She found seat 14A. She lifted her backpack and put it into the overhead bin, the storage compartment above the seats, and sat down. She buckled her seatbelt. She looked out the window. The tarmac was gray and wide. Other planes were parked in rows, their wings still. A luggage cart drove slowly past. The November sky above it all was flat and white. The cabin filled around her, overhead bins closing one by one. The flight attendant began the safety demonstration. Sarah watched it, even though she had seen it before. And then, slowly, the plane began to move. It turned away from the gate. It moved toward the runway with a kind of slow, patient certainty, like it had done this 1,000 times and would do it 1,000 more. The runway stretched out ahead. The engines grew louder. The plane accelerated. And then, lift. Sarah looked out the window as New York fell away below her. The grid of streets, the two rivers, silver in the morning light. The parks, like dark green patches, pressed into the city. And somewhere in there, her apartment, her couch, her window with the rain on it. She pressed her fingers to the cold glass for a moment. Then she opened her sketchbook to a fresh page. She wasn't sure yet what she would draw in Boston. She would figure that out when she got there. Right now, for the first time in a long time, she had nowhere she had to be, and 4 whole days to find out what that felt like. Today, Sarah took her first solo trip. She packed her bag the night before, took a taxi through a dark and quiet Brooklyn, checked in at JFK, went through security, found gate B12, and waited through a 2-hour delay, calmly, sketchbook open, and finally boarded her flight to Boston. Let's review today's vocabulary. To check in, to officially arrive at the airport and confirm you are on the flight. A boarding pass, the document that allows you to get on the plane. It shows your seat, your gate, and your flight number. A carry-on, a bag small enough to bring onto the plane with you, stored above your seat or under the seat in front. Security, the checkpoint where officers check your bags and ID before you enter the gate area. A gate, the specific door in the airport where you board your plane. A departure, when a flight leaves. Departures is also the section of the airport for outgoing flights. To navigate, to find your way through an unfamiliar place. Delayed, when a flight is late and does not leave at its scheduled time. To board, to get onto the plane. The overhead bin, the storage compartment above your seat on the plane. Day 18 done. If you finished today's episode, type Day 18 done in the comments. Tell us, are you someone who arrives 3 hours early or 30 minutes before the gate closes? I'd love to know. Tomorrow is day 19. Sarah arrives in Boston and checks into her hotel, and she discovers that booking a room in English is a whole conversation of its own. Room types, check-in times, what's included, we'll cover everything you need. Keep listening, keep learning. See you tomorrow. Have you ever arrived somewhere new, tired from a long flight, carrying too much, not sure where to go, and had to explain yourself in English before you'd even had coffee? Hotels are not the hard part. The conversation at the front desk, that's the hard part. When someone asks you questions quickly and professionally, and you're not sure you caught everything, and all you want is to sit down somewhere quiet. Today, we are going to make that conversation easy. By the end of this episode, you will know how to check in at a hotel, ask for an early check-in, understand what's included in your room, and handle the small surprises that happen when you travel, all in English. This is day 19 of your 30-day English journey. Day 19. 11 days left. Every episode of this series moves you one step closer to listening fluency, the ability to understand natural English without translating, without stopping, without stress. That's what we're building, day by day. And today, we build it at a hotel front desk in Boston. Yesterday, Sarah boarded a plane at JFK and flew to Boston. She watched New York disappear below her. She had her sketchbook open and 4 whole days ahead of her. Today, she lands. And her first task, before the museums, before the cafes, before any of it, is checking into her hotel. Let's go. The plane landed at Logan Airport at 9:14 in the morning. Sarah moved through the terminal slowly, following the signs. She had done this part yesterday. The signs, the arrows, the long corridors with gates on both sides. She was better at it now. She found the baggage claim area, the section of the airport where passengers wait for their checked bags to come off the plane. A large circular belt moved slowly in the middle of the room. Bags appeared one by one, dropping from a gap in the wall, turning in an endless loop. She spotted her rolling bag, navy blue with a small yellow ribbon tied to the handle so she could find it quickly. She pulled it off the belt and stood up straight. Outside, the air was cold and sharp. Boston in November felt different from New York, quieter somehow. The streets around the airport were lined with old brick buildings, dark red, worn smooth, and the trees had already turned orange, rust, a deep, dry yellow. Some of the leaves had fallen and lay in flat, damp layers on the pavement. She got into a taxi. Back Bay, the driver said. He had already seen the address on her phone. Yes, please, Sarah said. The hotel on Newbury Street. The driver nodded and pulled into traffic. Sarah looked out the window. Boston moved past slowly, different from New York in a way she couldn't quite name yet. Less vertical somehow, more settled, like it had been here a long time and didn't feel the need to prove it. The taxi stopped in front of a building with a dark green awning and the hotel name in gold letters above the door. A doorman in a long coat held the door open. "Welcome," he said. Sarah walked in. The lobby was warm and quiet. Dark wood paneling on the walls, a long Persian rug. 2 low armchairs near the window facing the street. A single large flower arrangement, white and deep green, on a round table in the center of the room. It smelled faintly of cedar. Sarah wheeled her bag to the front desk, the counter at the entrance of a hotel where guests check in, ask questions, and handle everything related to their stay. The man behind the desk was around 30, with a navy blazer and a calm, unhurried manner. His name tag said Daniel. "Good morning," he said. "Welcome. Do you have a reservation with us?" A reservation is a booking you make in advance, a confirmed arrangement to stay at a hotel on specific dates. Sarah had made her reservation 3 weeks ago, right after she submitted her portfolio for the Brooklyn Creative Awards. "Yes," she said. "Chen, Sarah Chen." Daniel typed something, looked at the screen, typed again. "Gotcha. 4 nights, checking out Friday. Is that right?" "That's right." "Perfect." He looked up. "Our standard check-in time is 3 p.m. It's just past 9 now, so the room isn't quite ready yet. I'm sorry about that." Standard check-in time is the official time when hotel rooms become available for new guests. Most hotels set this at 2 p.m. or 3 p.m. because the housekeeping team needs time to clean rooms after the previous guest checks out. Sarah had expected this. She had arrived 4 hours early. "Is there any chance of an early check-in?" she asked. "I just got off a flight." Early check-in means arriving at the hotel before the standard check-in time and asking if your room is ready sooner. Hotels don't always guarantee it. It depends on availability, but it doesn't hurt to ask. Daniel considered this. "Let me check what we have." He typed again, scrolling through something on the screen. "We do have one room that might be ready a bit earlier, around 11. I can't promise, but I'll put a note on it and call you as soon as it's prepared. That would be wonderful, Sarah said. In the meantime, he gestured toward the lobby behind her. You're welcome to wait here, use the Wi-Fi, help yourself to coffee, and I'm happy to store your bag so you don't have to carry it around. Sarah thanked him, left her rolling bag with the desk, and walked back into the lobby with only her backpack. She chose the armchair by the window. Outside, Newberry Street was beginning to wake up. A woman walked past with a coffee cup and a dog on a leash. A man in a coat unlocked a shop door and flipped the sign from closed to open. Two pigeons investigated something near the curb. A young woman from the hotel staff appeared beside Sarah with a small tray, a glass of orange juice, and 2 small shortbread cookies. Complimentary, she said with a smile, and set it down on the side table. Complimentary means free, provided as a gift or a courtesy without any extra charge. Hotels often offer complimentary items like water, coffee, breakfast, or toiletries as part of the guest experience. Thank you, Sarah said. She took a sip of the juice, cold and fresh. She opened her sketchbook. She wasn't sure yet what she wanted to draw. She looked at the lobby, the rug, the flower arrangement, the ceiling with its dark wooden beams. She looked out at the street. She turned to a blank page and started sketching the window, the frame, the light coming in, 2 pigeons on the pavement below. After a while, she took out her phone and messaged Maya. Landed safe. Hotel lobby is beautiful. They gave me free orange juice. Maya replied almost immediately. Boston! Send pictures. Also jealous. Sarah smiled and put her phone away. She thought about the past few weeks, the portfolio she had submitted, the late nights, the revisions, the moment she had clicked send and closed her laptop and stood in her kitchen not knowing what to do with her hands. And then this, 4 days in Boston, just for her. She picked up a shortbread cookie. At 10:52, her phone buzzed, a message from the front desk. Your room is ready whenever you are, Miss Chen. Room 712. Please come to the desk for your key. Daniel was waiting for her with a small paper envelope. Room 712, 7th floor, he said. He slid the envelope across the counter. Inside were 2 slim plastic cards. These are your key cards. You'll use them to open your door and, in some hotels, to activate the elevator to your floor. Keep one with you at all times and leave the other in the room if you'd like. A key card is a plastic card the same size as a credit card that acts as your room key in most modern hotels. You tap it or slide it to unlock your door. If it stops working, the front desk can reset it for you immediately. Breakfast is served in the dining room from 7 to 10, Daniel continued. It's included with your room, complimentary. Wi-Fi password is on the card inside your envelope. Checkout on Friday is by noon. To check out means to officially leave the hotel, return your key, settle any remaining charges, and end your stay. Most hotels ask guests to check out by 11 a.m. or noon so the rooms can be cleaned for the next guest. The elevator is just past the staircase on your right, he said. 7th floor, turn left, rooms at the end of the hall. Is there anything else I can help you with? No, Sarah said. Thank you, Daniel. Really. He smiled. Enjoy Boston. She took the elevator up. It was small and wood-paneled, with a round mirror on the ceiling. She watched herself holding the keycard envelope, backpack on her shoulder, hair slightly tangled from the flight. She looked, she thought, like someone who had just arrived somewhere. 7th floor. She turned left. Room 712 was at the end of a quiet hallway, just as Daniel had said. She held the keycard to the door. A soft click, a small green light. The room was not large. A double bed with a white duvet, a wooden desk under the window, a small armchair in the corner. A lamp on the bedside table with a warm bulb, and across the room, the window. She crossed to it and looked out. Rooftops, dark red brick stretching in rows. A church steeple in the middle distance, gray against the white November sky. A small park below, bared trees, a stone path, a few pigeons. The city was quiet from up here, calm. She set her backpack on the chair. She sat on the edge of the bed. She looked at the window for a long moment. She had nowhere she had to be until tomorrow. No client emails, no notifications. Just this room, this city, and 4 days to do exactly as she pleased. She lay back on the bed and looked at the ceiling. The room smelled faintly of clean linen and cedar, like the lobby downstairs. She closed her eyes. She was in Boston. Today, Sarah landed in Boston, collected her bag at baggage claim, took a taxi to her hotel on Newbury Street, and checked in, even though her room wasn't ready yet. She asked about early check-in, waited in the lobby with complimentary orange juice and her sketchbook, and finally made her way to room 712 on the 7th floor, a small, quiet room with a view of rooftops and a church steeple. Let's review today's vocabulary. Baggage claim, the area in the airport where passengers collect their checked bags. A reservation, a booking made in advance to stay at a hotel on specific dates. The front desk, the main counter in a hotel where guests check in and ask for help. Standard check-in time, the official time when rooms become available, usually 2 p.m. or 3 p.m. Early check-in, arriving before standard check-in time and asking if your room is ready sooner. Complimentary, free, provided as a courtesy at no extra charge. Amenities, the extra features and services a hotel offers, like Wi-Fi, breakfast, or a gym. A key card, the plastic card used to unlock your hotel room door. To check out, to officially end your hotel stay, return your key, and settle any charges. A room with a view, a room that looks out onto something worth seeing. Day 19 done. If you finished today's episode, type Day 19 done in the comments. And here's a question for you. When you travel, do you prefer a big hotel with lots of amenities or a small, quiet place like Sarah's? Tell me in the comments. Tomorrow is day 20. Sarah has a full day in Boston, and she meets someone who asks her about her past. Where did she grow up? What was she like as a kid? Talking about the past in English is a different skill, and tomorrow we'll learn it together. Keep listening. Keep learning. See you tomorrow. Here is something interesting about the past tense in English. It isn't just grammar, it's the language of memory. The way you talk about who you were, where you came from, what life used to look like before it became what it is now. And for many English learners, this is one of the hardest switches to make. Not because the rules are difficult, but because talking about the past requires you to think differently, to reach back, to describe something that no longer exists in a language you're still building. Today, we practice it the natural way, through story. By the end of this episode, you will know how to talk about your childhood, your hometown, and your memories, using used to, the simple past, and the kind of language that makes the past feel real. This is day 20 of your 30-day English journey. Day 20. 10 days left. This series exists for one reason, to take you from A1 to B1 through listening. Not through grammar tables or vocabulary lists, but through stories told at a pace you can follow with words that stay with you. Every episode is one more layer of fluency. Yesterday, Sarah landed in Boston and checked into her hotel on Newbury Street. She had 4 days ahead of her, no deadlines, no client emails. Just the city, her sketchbook, and time. Today is Tuesday, her first full day in Boston, and today she meets someone, a stranger, who becomes, for a few hours, something more than that. Let's go. Sarah woke up slowly. The room was still dim, the curtains were thick, and only a thin line of light came in along the edge. She could hear the city below, quiet and unhurried. A delivery truck, a pigeon, someone's footsteps on the pavement. She lay there for a moment, looking at the ceiling. She had slept well, better than she had in weeks. No alarm, no notifications, just sleep, and then waking, slowly, in a room that smelled faintly of cedar and clean linen. She got up, pulled back the curtains, and stood at the window. Boston in November. The rooftops were dark red in the morning light, the same brick she had seen the night before, but warmer now, with the low winter sun catching the surface. The church steeple rose above everything. The small park below was empty, except for a man in a coat, sitting on a bench, reading a newspaper. She made herself a coffee from the small machine on the desk, took it back to the window, and stood there for a long time. She had no plan for the day. That thought, usually uncomfortable, felt different here, like a gift. She opened her sketchbook and wrote 3 words at the top of an empty page. Walk, look, draw. An hour later, she was outside. She walked without a destination. Back Bay, then along the Charles River, then into the South End, a neighborhood of narrow streets and brownstone buildings, small restaurants, art galleries tucked into ground floor spaces. She stopped at a cafe on a corner. It was small, maybe 8 tables, a long wooden counter, a chalkboard menu on the wall. The kind of place that smelled like butter and coffee and something baking. She took a table by the window and ordered a latte and a slice of apple cake. The cafe was quiet. A few people working on laptops, a woman reading, 2 older men at the counter talking to the barista, and then the woman at the next table looked over. She was perhaps 65, with silver hair cut short and a warm, open face. She was wearing a rust-colored coat and had a sketchbook very similar to Sarah's open on the table. She smiled. "Are you an artist?" she asked. Sarah looked down at her own sketchbook. "I'm a designer, actually, but I sketch when I travel." "So do I," the woman said. "May I?" She gestured toward the empty chair at Sarah's table. Her name was Eleanor. She was a retired art teacher from Providence, Rhode Island, a city about an hour south of Boston. She came to Boston 2 or 3 times a year, she said, just to walk and draw. "The light is different here," she said. "Older, somehow." Sarah understood exactly what she meant. They talked for almost 2 hours. Eleanor asked questions the way a good teacher does, not to fill silence, but because she was genuinely curious. She asked about Sarah's work, about Brooklyn, about the trip. And then she asked, "Where did you grow up?" Sarah wrapped both hands around her coffee cup. "A small town in Ohio," she said. "Granville. You probably haven't heard of it." "I know Granville," Eleanor said, surprised. "Denison University. Beautiful campus." Sarah smiled. "Exactly. That campus. I used to ride my bike past it on the way to school. In the fall, the trees were..." She paused, searching for the right word. "Unbelievable. Every color at once." She hadn't thought about Granville in a while. But now, with Eleanor listening, and the cafe warm around her, it came back in pieces. Growing up, The years when a person develops from a child into an adult had, for Sarah, meant a town where everyone knew each other's name, where the hardware store had been owned by the same family for 3 generations, where the first snow of the year felt like an announcement. "What were you like as a kid?" Eleanor asked. Sarah laughed softly. "Quiet. I read a lot. I was always drawing." She paused. "I used to carry a sketchbook everywhere, just like now, actually." "Some things don't change," Eleanor said. "I was also a little restless," Sarah added. "Granville is beautiful, but it's small. By the time I was 17, all I wanted was to go somewhere bigger, somewhere with more possibility, I guess." Eleanor nodded. She understood. "My hometown was the same," she said. "I left at 18. Never really went back, not to stay." She looked out the window. "But I still dream about the kitchen in my mother's house, the way the light came through the window in the afternoon." Sarah was quiet for a moment. She knew that feeling too. They ordered more coffee. Outside, the November light shifted, the pale winter sun moving slowly behind a layer of cloud, turning everything softer, more diffuse. The kind of light, Sarah thought, that made you want to slow down. Eleanor talked about her years teaching, the students she remembered, the ones who had surprised her. And Sarah talked about Ohio. She talked about her parents' house, a 2-story house at the end of a quiet street, with a maple tree in the front yard that turned bright orange every October. "Used to" was the phrase she found herself reaching for, again and again. Used to for things that happened regularly in the past but no longer happen. A habit, a routine, a part of life that has since changed. "My dad used to take me to the library every Saturday," she said. "I would take out as many books as I was allowed, 8 at a time, I think. We used to have a vegetable garden in the backyard. My mom grew tomatoes and zucchini and this enormous amount of basil. The whole kitchen would smell like basil in August. And every winter, when it snowed, my dad and I used to go for a walk before breakfast. Just the 2 of us. Nobody else was ever outside that early. The streets were completely white and completely silent." She stopped. She was surprised by how clearly she could see it. The snow on the street, her breath visible in the cold air, her father's hand in a brown wool glove. A memory, a picture from the past that your mind keeps, does something to you when it comes back unexpectedly. It makes you feel 2 times at once, the present moment and the moment you're remembering. Eleanor was watching her. "You miss it," she said, not a question. "Sometimes," Sarah said, "not the smallness, but the simplicity, I guess, the way nothing needed to be figured out yet." She looked out the window at the Boston street. "But I think that's just childhood," she said. "Everyone misses it. Even people who had hard ones, I think. You miss the version of yourself who didn't know yet what was coming." Eleanor raised her coffee cup slightly, the way you might raise a glass to make a toast. "To not knowing what was coming," she said. Sarah smiled and raised her cup. "To Granville, Ohio," she said. They sat together a little longer, not talking, sketching, looking out the window, listening to the cafe around them. When Eleanor finally stood to leave, she handed Sarah a small card with her name and email address on it. "If you're ever in Providence," she said, "look me up." "I will," Sarah said, and she meant it. She watched Eleanor button her rust-colored coat and push open the cafe door. A wave of cold air came in, and then the door swung closed, and she was gone. Sarah looked down at her sketchbook. She had drawn Eleanor's hands. the coffee cup, the chalkboard menu on the wall. She turned to a new page and wrote, in small letters at the top, Granville, October, maple tree, Dad's glove, white streets. She would draw those later. She had time. Today, Sarah spent her first full day in Boston, walking through the South End, stopping at a cafe, and meeting Eleanor, a retired art teacher from Providence. They talked for 2 hours, about art, about teaching, about hometowns, and Sarah found herself talking about Granville, Ohio, the small town where she grew up, the maple tree, the library Saturdays, the winter walks with her dad before breakfast. Let's review today's vocabulary. To grow up, to develop from a child into an adult, also the place or conditions of that experience. A hometown, the town or city where you were born or grew up. A childhood, the period of time when you are a child, your early years. A memory, a thought or picture of something that happened in the past. Used to, a phrase for past habits and routines that no longer happen. I used to ride my bike to school. Possibility, the chance that something could happen, a sense of opportunity. Simplicity, the quality of being simple, uncomplicated, not difficult. To make a toast, to raise a glass in honor of someone or something. Unexpected, something that happens without warning, that you did not expect. Day 20 done. If you finished today's episode, type Day 20 done in the comments. And here's your question. Where did you grow up, and what is one thing you used to do there as a kid? Tell me in the comments. I read everyone. Tomorrow is day 21, and everything changes. Sarah is back in Brooklyn, and she has a job interview, something she has been working toward for a long time. Expressing yourself professionally in English is a completely different skill, and tomorrow we learn it together. Keep listening, keep learning. See you tomorrow.